Not every Metroidvania needs to be a 30-hour commitment. Games like Hollow Knight or Eterna Noctis can take dozens of hours to fully explore, which works if you have the time for it. Raider Kid and the Ruby Chest goes in a different direction. The developer calls it a microvania, built around a much shorter playtime at around 3 hours. Whether that works comes down to how much it can do within that limited scope, and I'll go through how it plays, how the world is structured, how progression works, and where it might fall short. The setup for this game is simple. You play as Alex, a kid who sneaks away from a family trip and ends up lost in ancient ruins, picking up tools left behind by other explorers as you try to find your way back. Visually, it's a love letter to the Game Boy Color. We're talking limited palettes, chunky sprites, and that chiptune soundtrack that feels like it was ripped straight off a 1998 cartridge. It even includes customizable screen borders to sell the handheld nostalgia. While the presentation is retro, the way it teaches you how to play feels more intentional. What stands out early is how limited your toolkit is. These tools can also be used as weapons, but they're mainly used to help you progress, whether that's breaking blocks or hitting switches from a distance. Your main attack is a whip, and most encounters are quick and straightforward, acting as obstacles between objectives. You get a small set of tools, and some of them come with restrictions. One example is the hammer charge. When you hold it, your movement slows down and you can't jump. When you release it into a wall, you get pushed back from the impact. At first, this just feels restrictive. The game doesn't walk you through how to use it beyond the basics, so you end up experimenting. Most of the puzzles stay within that same range. They're not especially demanding, but they do ask you to stop and think for a moment. There were a few times where I had to step back and look at a room again before it made sense. That ties closely into how the world is laid out. The map is small, but it's arranged in a way that keeps showing you things before you can actually reach them. There are rooms where you can see a path, an item, or even a boss area, but you're blocked from entering directly. Instead, the layout gives you hints about where that access might be. This becomes more noticeable as the game goes on, especially in the latter half where some of these setups get more involved. Because of that layout, moving through the map can take time if you're doing it on foot. Warp points are placed in a way that encourages you to use them, and they end up saving a noticeable amount of time once you start moving between objectives. Progression follows a similar approach to the rest of the game. You do get upgrades, but they are incremental. More health, more projectiles, faster charge times. There are no multiple builds or a wide set of abilities to cycle through. The focus stays on a core set of tools, and the upgrades reinforce that instead of expanding outward. Boss fights follow the same approach. They build on the mechanics you've already been using, so the challenge comes from recognizing what the fight is asking rather than learning something entirely new. Most of them are short and fairly manageable, though the later ones can give players a bit more of a challenge. There are manual save points placed throughout the map. The game does autosave in some spots, but not consistently enough to rely on it, so it's worth using them whenever you see one. There are also multiple endings tied to how much of the game you complete. Reaching full completion is manageable, especially with the key item that helps you locate items that you haven't obtained yet, so seeing the more complete ending doesn't feel out of reach. Is Raider Kid and the Ruby Chest for everyone? Not really. If you're looking for something that takes weeks to explore, this will feel like it ends just as it's getting started. However, at $8, it fits what it's trying to do. Personally, I had fun with it, and I was surprised by how clever some of the level design can be. If you'd like to check the game out, the link is in the description. If you played Raider Kid and the Ruby Chest, let us know what you think. And if you liked the video, consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and sticking around for more. I'll see you in the next one.